Greetings, my fellow Rainbow Sovereign Thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Tuesday, August 15th, 2017. And yes, it is Tuesday morning, chilling around the New River of Fort Lauderdale. Outside, it's warm, but it's not muggy, which is amazing. Nice little breeze. It was hot this summer, but it wasn't scorching. I'm right by the river, so and the breeze, ocean, and all that, so I'm pretty blessed. Yes, so I'm not gonna really go too bonkers. I notice a lot of folks on Facebook is trying to take sides and what's going on in Charlottesville. Looks like it's more distraction than ever. And I made my statement on my last episode, mainly about blood guilt on the city of Charlottesville, plus the whole divide and conquer, social engineering, and so forth. So I'm going to be maybe just do a couple of things pertaining to that. However, like this about the psyops and all that. So, however, I'm going to be actually narrating something that's from newsbuds.com. Came out a couple of days ago. And this is Newsbud exclusive, so if you want to actually read the article, you have to be a member. So support these guys, are really good. And you won't be disappointed. So, it says here, Neocons and Democrats unite as war on Russia intensifies, by Kurt Nemo. Reads here, perturbed by the outlier, Donald Trump, Democrats have circled the wagons and united with the Bush-era neocons under the banner of the Alliance for Securing Democracy. That sounds real cute, right? ASD is which is acronym ASD, a project sponsored by the German Marshall Fund of the United States. The organization's mission is predicted on a baseless presumption that has gone viral. Vladimir Putin and the Russians are actively involved in a nefarious plot to undermine democracy in America and Europe. But if you were with Israel, you are exceptional. Or Saudi Arabia. Ticker tape parade, red carpet treatment, and sing Kumbaya. ASD's mission statement avers will strive to develop comprehensive strategies to defend against, deter, and raise the cost on Russian and other states' actors' efforts to undermine democracy and democratic institutions. The alliance will work to publicly document and expose Vladimir Putin's ongoing efforts to subvert democracy in the United States and Europe. In July, the journalist Glenn Greenwald pointed out that ASD is the ultimate union of mainstream Democratic foreign policy officials and the world's most militant and militaristic neocons. The group is led by longtime Washington foreign policy hands, one from the establishment Democratic wing and the other key figure among leading GOP neocons, to wit Laura Rosenberger and Jamie Fly. Democrat Rosenberger, the director of the ASD, is a senior fellow GMF, Hillary Clinton's campaign foreign policy advisor and chief of staff to the Deputy Secretary of State during the Obama administration. This threat to our democracy is a national security issue. Russia is waging war on us. They are using different kinds of weapons than we are used to do in a war, Rosenberg told the Washington Post. We need to do a much better job understanding the tools the Russians are using and that others could use in the future to undermine democratic institutions. And we need to work closer with our European allies, which also are subjected to this threat. Jamie Fly is a seasoned neocon. He is a former advisor to the George W. Bush administration and served as executive director of Bill Kristol's now defunct Foreign Policy Initiative. Similar to the letterhead neocon advocacy initiative, the Project of the New American Century, a PNAC boy. In addition to serving on the National Security Council and the Defense Department during the Bush regime, Fly worked with presumptive Republican presidential candidate and neocon favorite Marco Rubio in 2013 as his counsel on foreign and national security affairs. Isn't that pretty upfront and close? Moreover, he worked as a research associate at the Council on Foreign Relations from 2002 to 2004, another proud bend-over Bob to the New World Order. The ASD Advisory Council includes a number of neocons and fellow travelers, including Bush Homeland Security Director Michael Chertoff, called Michael Jerkoff, and Rush means son of the devil. And he's a dual citizenship, Israeli citizen and American. How cute is that? Weekly Standard editor and leading neocon Bill Kristol, Obama's administration CIA boss Michael Morrow, and a former chairman of the Permanent Select Committee on National Intelligence, Mike Rogers. Oh my goodness. Ooh. The advisory, according to the ASD mission statement, will provide overall justice, guidance, and direction, and meet to examine the findings of the efforts and discuss overarching Russian doctrine and strategy and identify areas of full exploration. The German Marshall Fund, billed as a nonpartisan American public policy think tank and grant-making institution dedicated to promoting cooperation and understanding between North America and Europe, is a top-level deep state organization. The GMF membership is telling the late David Rockefeller's Chase Manhattan Bank, Gabriel Hogg of the Manufacturers Hanover Trust and Finance Corporation, Milton Katz of the Ford Foundation, a CIA front group, Irving Bluestone, the chairman of the United Auto Workers Executive Board. Ooh, hopefully all you UAW members will see that and call that son of a bitch out. Guido Goldman of the Aspen Institute, the late Alvaro Harriman, Silvio Berlusconi, Madeleine Albright. I've seen her in person. She looks like an overgrown Miss Piggy from the Muppets. And Bill Clinton, among others. See the Committee of 300, The Conspiracy Hierarchy by John Coleman. I gotta look at that. Wow, man. The Committee of 300, also known as the Olympians, founded in 1712 by the British aristocracy, is interlinked with the Council on Foreign Relations, Parallel Commission, Bilderberg, the Aspen Institute, the Brookings Institute, intelligence agencies, including CIA and MI6, and a number of other influential deep state organizations. In August, GMF and ADS established a 68 Hamilton dashboard that describes the web tool designed to track 600 Twitter accounts linked to Russian influence activities online, according to Rosenberger. The name is taken from the 68th edition of the Federalist Papers, in which Alexander Hamilton discussed how to prevent foreign meddling and influence in American electoral process. Well, can you explain why you're not doing that to Israel? Twitter's accounts, as selected by the new website, included those overtly involved in disinformation campaigns pushed by Russian propaganda outlets such as RT and Sputnik, and users that shared information promoting the Russian government. Reuters reported on August 2nd. Hamilton 68 not only tracks RT and Sputnik, but also a number of American alternative websites the elite considered a threat, including the Duran, Zero Hedge, Gateway Pundit, and remarkably Fox News. 68 Hamilton has stepped in where prop or not floundered. As a blogger, J.E. Dwyer notes other actors are working hard to influence U.S. media, the Democracy Alliance, David Brock, George Soros, and other deep-socket left-wing donors. It is often ridiculously obvious how much success they are having in the mainstream, as opposed to the new media where the Russian influence is said to flourish. When you see the acts, some take talking points blasted from 20 major outlets in the space of 2 hours. Democracy Alliance is supported by a group of wealthy Democrats. Members include billionaire George Soros and his son Jonathan Soros, former Rockefeller Family Fund president Ann Bartley, San Francisco Bay Area donors Susie Tompkins Boyle and Mark Boyle, Hollywood director Rob Reiner, the meathead, Taco Bell heir Rob McKay, and New York financier Stephen Gluster. Good grief. The emerging alliance between established Democrats and neocons harks back to the Cold War liberalism. The neocon Robert Kagan, who hails from Strobe Talbot's Brookings Institute, a bastion of liberal establishmentarians, who praises Harry S. Truman's Secretary of State Dean Ashton, who helped design Marshall Plan and was a key player in the development of the Truman Doctrine and the creation of NATO. In addition to convincing Truman to intervene in Korea, he set the stage for the Vietnam War by advising Truman and sent military advisors to Southeast Asia. God bless imperialism, right? During the election campaign, a number of neocons establishment Republicans backed Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. These include, in addition to Kagan, Brent Scowcroft, former Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson Jr., former Secretary to State to George W. Bush, Richard Armitage, U.S. Arms Control Director under Ronald Reagan, Ken Alderman, neocon author Max Boot, and many others. At a first glance at this emerging neocon liberal interventionism may seem odd. However, it must be remembered that the neocons began under the wing of Henry Scoop Jackson, a co-war liberal and anti-communist Democrat. In 1972, Robert L. Bartley, an editorial page editor to the Wall Street Journal, characterized the neocons as representing something of a swing group between the two major parties. Despite minor disagreements on the Iran deal and the wisdom of the Iraq War, when marriage isn't natural, both groups share the same foreign policy strategy, notably on Ukraine, Syria, and Russia. That's right. What we see, writes Greenwald, are leading Democratic foreign policy experts joining hands with the world's worst neocons to form a new broad-based policy advocacy group to reshape U.S. foreign policy toward a more hostile, belligerent, and hawkish posture, most ominously regard to Russia. Rank-and-file Democrats bathed in non-stop propaganda about the Russian threat that are failing into line. In April, a survey conducted by the Pew Research Center found nearly that 40% of Democrats view Russia as the country that poses the most serious threat to the United States. Corporate media talking points scoped within the recesses of the deep state have convinced 31% of Americans that Russia is the real threat, followed up by the supposed threat posed by North Korea at 21%. A January survey found that Democrats are far more likely than Republicans to say that Russia was behind the hacks of the Hillary campaign and the Democratic National Committee. That survey also found that 38% of Democrats viewed Russia as an adversary compared with 20% of Republicans, notes Rob Soules for Pew. Prominent Democrats are aggressively pushing confrontation with the world's second largest nuclear power. We are and are under attack by hostile foreign power. Dan Bigella, the Democratic consultant and longtime advisor to Bill and Hillary Clinton, told CNN in July, we should be debating how many sanctions we should place on Russia or whether we should blow up the KGB. Whoa, interesting, huh? How manly is that? This rhetoric matches that of Darth Vader of the neocons, Dick Cheney. I will not underestimate the weight that we as Americans assign to the Russian attempts to interfere with our internal political processes, he said at a foreign speech at a business summit in New Delhi back in March. In some quarters, that would be considered an act of war. For Cheney, those quarters are occupied by a roster of neocons and their allies in the Democratic Party. It remains to be seen if they can leverage influence over Trump. However, the president, although we are told reluctantly and despite assurances to the contrary during the campaign, is moving in a similar direction. On August 3rd, he signed legislation that levies new sanctions against Russia and restricts its ability to impose sanctions on Moscow. Russia is considered the new round tantamount to a trade war. The military, congressional, industrial, academic, media complex needs an enemy what the public can identify with. Former Congressman Ron Paul wrote in January, guys wearing what appears to be 400 count bed sheets, diving into vast deserts in Daytona and Toyotas, armed with guns, swords, knives, and suicide belts just don't cut it. The new enemy, in fact, since the end of the Second World War, is Russia. Unlike Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, the Islamic State, and other manufactured enemies created to feed the military-industrial complex, the new enemy wields considerable prowess with an accumulated stockpile of 7,000 nuclear weapons, according to the Arms Control Association. The prospect of life, as we know, coming to an abrupt and fiery end grows closer with every provocation. Russia is taking the threat seriously. In October, Russian television sent out an explicit warning to the populace. If it should one day happen, every one of you should know where the nearest bomb shelter is. It is the best to find out now, the report stressed. That's right. So, real shame, my friends, on what is going on with that. With the whole thing of creating these treasonous quacks, Uncle Tom's and Angel Mamas to the New World Order. Trying to dictate what should we do, how we should live, and attack anything necessary. Unnecessary. Illegal wars. Banksters wars. Right, those parasites that's addressed in this article. They're your enemy. They don't care about your families or people you love. They're your lifelong enemies. Plain and simple. Not even your servant. Sorry about that, I just yawned. One thing you gotta look at, my friends, always examine everything in a bigger picture. Completely unacceptable. You should throw them in the front line, see how tough they really are. Imagine Darth Vader, Dick Cheney trying to do that. Shoot. And Marco Rubio needs a mirror with his underwear. Brand new underwear. So, I would say this to Mr. Trump. Stand down on this matter. And this one here from ArmstrongEconomics.com came out yesterday. Civil unrest in Charlottesville is part of the cycle into 2020. The violence has erupted ahead of a planned rally where thousands of white nationalists were expected to gather for an alt-right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia. A Saturday led to numerous injuries, of which at least 2 people were seriously injured. A video appears all over YouTube showing the confrontation as a man is being dragged away by officials. The Unite the Right rally was being held at Emancipation Park, with hundreds moving through the city, wearing military uniforms, waving flags, and chanting "blood and soil" as they made their towards the event. Charlottesville Mayor Mark Steiner has announced the Carol Lee parade of hatred, bigotry, racism, and intolerance marched down the lawns of the architect of our Bill of Rights and warned for residents to stay away from the rally. This rally isn't any immigration, many pointing the finger at Europe. There's a photo in here too of a riot in Philadelphia, 1844, Philadelphia nativism riots against Irish Catholics. We must realize that such riots against immigrants is by no means new. Turn the economy down and unemployment rises. The first thing people to blame is the immigrant. For Major to label this event simple because by hatred, bigotry, racism, and intolerance demonstrates he does not comprehend the cause, nor does he even think this is something that occurred in the past. The people who oppose this alt-right also are typically the people who are students and have lost nothing yet. We most likely see these types of events explode, peaking out in the real bloodshed by September 21st to 22nd, 2019. So expect to see this civil unrest continue to rise, especially after 2017. Social engineering at its finest. Mind control 101. Divide and rule. And I'm not the only one saying this. Many others who are informed and observed this videos pretty damn well. I already made my statements on this topic enough times in person than I did on the show, on my last episode. However, this other gem I'm gonna play is from Activist News. Like he's based in Australia. It has a thing called the Charlottesville PSYOP. Some of it may be considered controversial. Some of the language you may be using, and blame one particular group. But when you really listen, it's a lot bigger than that. Very anti-New World Order. Very pro-New World Order, I would say. And we'll play this for you. And just check it out. It'll be like 10 minutes, and I'll be back.
Welcome back to Activist News, ladies and gentlemen. While the whole world and the mainstream media are fixated on the Charlottesville rallies, there is actually real shit happening in the world. But it seems like the mainstream media want you to focus on the rhetoric that they're pushing. While there is a large portion of the media who want you to criticize Trump for not condemning these protesters enough, there is also another group of people who, just for the life of them, can't see any wrongdoing in anything that Trump does. I mean, to some of these Trump supporters, they see Trump as just being perfect, and that he just can't do anything wrong. In fact, every time he does do something wrong, or every time his administration is responsible for something, rather than blaming Trump, they seem to blame the deep state. What a load of fucking shit. Trump is balls deep in the Jewish swamp, and it's about time people stop making excuses for him. I can't tell you how many polarizing news articles I've come across that profess to show Trump's position in what is happening in Charlottesville. And it really is nothing more than divisive left-right bullshit. But that's not what this video is about. I don't want to focus on who is right or who is wrong. I want to focus on how this is being used by the mainstream media and intelligence agencies that have infiltrated these movements to fulfill a political agenda. And another big thing YouTubers are jumping on the bandwagon of is calling this whole entire thing a false flag. I mean, sure, the very essence of everything that's happening in Charlottesville is very much controlled, and for the most part it probably is a psyop. But to call the whole thing a false flag, I just don't know. But, I mean, you try telling that to the people who are protesting on the ground. Whether or not the car hitting these protesters was fake or not, I don't know. And for the most part, it actually changes nothing, because they still get the result they want. And who are they? The elite, whatever you want to call them. They are pushing for more security and less freedom. It just amazes me that people can't see behind the bullshit of what is really going on. divide, and conquer. All throughout modern US history, there have been grassroots movements, rebellions, and activist groups being manipulated, infiltrated, and controlled by US intelligence agencies, Jewish media moguls, and people like George Soros. Sometimes the portion of control is large, and other times not so much. But what is clear is the fact that many of these controlled opposition groups from the past, like the Black Panthers, the KKK, LGBTQ, and a few others, they are helping to further divide the people. Many of these organisations have been corrupted by the powers that be to one degree or another. For an example, it turns out that the KKK have a lot of CIA connections. Likewise, the Black Panthers seem to have a lot of FBI agents on board who are put in place to create fear and to set up the circumstances in which future police action would be justified. Well, there is nothing new under the sun, because today even groups like Antifa, the alt-right, and many other offshoot groups of so-called neo-Nazis, who seem to all embrace Zionism, is, in large, being steered by intelligence agencies and Jewish media moguls. There is an obvious agenda that's being played out to further divide the already fractured society of the United States. In fact, this is something that Charles Manson used to talk about, the coming race wars of America, something he called helter-skelter. But even much of the culture surrounding Charles Manson was also adopted by the Jews in the mainstream media, who later turned him into a bit of a pop icon. To give you an idea of how the media can spin things around whether they control something or not, a few years ago I attended a very big rally in Sydney, Australia. The focus was on Israel's war crimes and apartheid over the Palestinians. This event was spectacular. I mean, thousands of people turned up, it was peaceful, informative, and all in all there was just a really good vibe. There were even a lot of educated people and a few politicians who came to talk at the rally. But some dickhead, who I believe was more than likely an undercover police officer, got behind the main stage at the protest, towards the end of the protest, and started waving around an ISIS flag. I mean, people very quickly got to him and took the flag off him and, told him to go away. But that didn't stop the media, who were there all day, taking a photo of that flag and making a story out of how dangerous and anti-Semitic these ISIS-supporting Palestinian activists are. I mean, the media could have taken all kinds of photos, but obviously that's the one they're going to go with. And that's all it takes. It was used to demonize the Palestinian movement as a bigoted campaign that supported ISIS. And, I mean, nothing can be further from the truth. But, even so, it doesn't matter how well you mean. And it doesn't even matter how well you manage to keep your circles clean of infiltration. You can be sure that the police and the media will be there to fill the gaps for the intelligence agencies that wish to control these movements. Or at least the results that these movements create. I was also involved in the Anonymous Collective for about 6 years, before I realised what a joke it really was and just how contrived it all is. But I'll make a video about that another day. The point is, whether you are for free speech, you're against Trump, LGBT, Black Lives Matter, Police Lives Matter, none of that really matters, because what's happening here is these subcultures are being used by the elites for nefarious purposes. You best believe that it's the division of these subcultures that are created that is what's really important to the elite, because it's much easier to control pockets of society than a well-informed society as a whole. I mean, just think about it. Something that the elites are very good at is creating trends, giving us leaders to follow, and dividing us within the left-right paradigm. And if only people could stop repeatedly falling for this trap, that would just be great. Now, I know some of you out there are probably thinking, oh, I'm just an idiot, and I don't understand equality, or I don't understand nationalism, or blah blah blah. But look, I do, I get it, okay? But it is completely a trap. Does it really surprise you that they would use something as sensitive as race riots To get an emotional response? I mean, they're not going to use something boring. And now everybody wants to know what their favourite celebrity thinks about Charlottesville. Well, who cares what they think? There is a $1 trillion war being fought in the Middle East right now by Zionist-occupied governments, who are dropping bombs on third world people at the tune of 7 bombings a day. There is also an AI-controlled 5G grid being set up to replace the internet, which is being steered in large by the Jewish censorship specialists known as the Anti-Defamation League, in association with Google and Facebook. We are also witnessing the centralization and the digitalization of all monies and currencies being converted into a single digital blockchain government-controlled currency. So there are many other things more worthy of your focus, but unfortunately, Charlottesville is what everybody wants people to focus on, and all of this shit in North Korea. So at any rate, I'm sorry to disappoint you if you were hoping for a detailed breakdown of Trump's response or his lack of response, but I think what's important here is getting this message across about this game of helter-skelter, the constant dividing and conquering, government-controlled subcultures, and the political expediency that results. People need to realise that the elites are banking on this. We don't need a leader, folks, and no superhero is coming. We the people are the ones who need to organise and become more community orientated, more self-sufficient, and actually be willing to stand our ground in the face of oppression. And it's not your fellow man or neighbour that's oppressing you. It's the system of left-right politics. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, guys, peace.
Yeah, you can't really argue with that. I know about some of the folks maybe say, oh, he's an anti-Semitic going after the Jews. But when you disregard some of that vocabulary, you have to examine the bigger picture. Yes, there was reports, I have read it as well, about the Anti-Defamation League is on a censorship hunt, and they're not more than a bunch of treasonous cowards. I despise them when I first heard the name. I've taken this to do my homework on it when I was like in my early 20s, and I still say today, they lie about militias, gun control, enthusiasm, and the reason why I call Abraham Foxman a coward, because he never had the courage to challenge the late Aaron Zellman, debate them on those topics. So you know what? They're nothing more than New World Order garbage, and they're a very good, well example of what they're about. So folks out there, you have to always see things what it is. Psyops and all that. They're trying to shove this down your throat. I see on Facebook people are posting crap, exploiting the daylights out of it on this horrific event. Look at it a lot broader than what they're showing you. Order out of chaos. Social engineering at its finest. Trying to make this into a broader police state. Not just in this country, but around the world. So pay attention, stay vigilant, stop pussyfooting around. And that is it. I thank everyone for listening to the show. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or something that's interesting I may want to check out, whatever you do, please address this. Your correspondences with the call. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, Minds.com. I think I got all that. Yeah, I think I do. Minds.com, Scene.life, Minds.com, FutureNet.club, or patreon.com/LokiLuck3 with 3 I's all together. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com, Or do you cryptid fans? LokiLuck03 at protonmail.com. Yeah, you hear someone driving by over the Andrews Avenue Bridge. Alright, my friends, once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.